Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. I'm Mark, and I'm joined, as always, by the wonderful Sarah. Today, we are starting something massive. We aren't just talking about tips. We are diving into a complete transformation of how you speak and think in English.
Hi, Mark. I am so excited for this. We've talked to thousands of learners, and the number one thing they say is, I know the words, but I can't put them together. Today, we're going to fix that. We're going to break down the barriers.
Exactly. We've designed this into 10 deep dive parts. And Sarah, I want us to start right at the beginning. Not the ABCs, but the mental shift. Why is it that some people learn for 10 years and can't speak, while others learn for 6 months and are fluent?
It's the translation trap, Mark. Most people hear English, translate it to their native language, think of a response, and then translate it back. By the time they're ready to speak, the conversation has moved on.
I see that all the time. It's like trying to run a race while carrying heavy luggage. So in this first part, let's talk about how to drop that luggage. Sarah, what was the first thing you did when you were mastering your conversational flow?
I started with labeling. I stopped looking at an object and thinking of the word in my language. When I saw a table, I didn't think of my local word for it. I forced my brain to see the image and immediately say, table. It sounds simple, but it rewires the brain.
That's a powerful habit. Let's expand on that. If I'm a beginner and I want to start thinking in English today, what's the first conversation I should have with myself?
Start with your routine. Use the I plus verb formula. It's the most basic building block of English. Mark, let's role-play a morning routine for our listeners using only simple, high-frequency words.
Let's do it. I'll start. I wake up. I see the sun. I feel tired.
Good. Now I'll add a bit more. I get out of bed. I go to the kitchen. I want coffee.
I make coffee. I smell the coffee. I drink the coffee. I feel better.
Do you see what we did there? We didn't use interrogative adverbs or past perfect continuous tenses. We used the core, the heart of the language. If you can describe your day in these short bursts, you are already speaking English.
But Sarah, some people might say, Mark, that's too simple. I want to sound professional. What do you say to them?
I tell them that you must walk before you can run. Even the most professional CEO starts their day by saying, I have a meeting. Complexity comes from layering simple ideas. If you can't say, I want coffee without stuttering, you won't be able to explain a complex business strategy.
That is a reality check right there. Now, let's talk about the 50 core words. We know that in the English language, about 50% of all communication is made up of just about 100 words. If we narrow that down to the absolute power words, what are the ones that give learners the most bang for their buck?
Definitely the action verbs. Words like get, do, make, take, go, come, have, and give. If you master these 8 words, you can describe almost 500 different situations.
Let's prove it. Take the word get. It's like a Swiss Army knife, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You can get a taxi for transportation, get a cold for health, get a joke for understanding, or get angry for emotion. One word, 4 completely different meanings. This is why learners get confused, but it's also why they should be happy, because they only have to learn one word to say so many things.
This is exactly the kind of deep dive we need. Listeners, we are going to keep this momentum going. We are going to explore how these words interact, how to build your confidence, and how to eventually stop translating forever. That's a fascinating point about the word get, Sarah. It really is the ultimate shortcut. But let's look at the flip side. If get is the Swiss Army knife, what is the most dangerous word for a beginner?
I would say the word think.
Think? Why is that dangerous?
Because when a student says, I am thinking, they're usually stuck in their head, translating. They stop the flow of the conversation. I always tell my students, don't think, just observe and react. If someone says, how are you? Don't think about the grammar of I am doing well, just react with good, thanks.
It's like a reflex, like catching a ball. You don't calculate the physics of the ball's flight, you just move your hand.
Exactly. And to get that reflex, you need input, a lot of it. But not just any input. It has to be comprehensible input. This is a term used by linguists. It means listening to English that is just one tiny step above your current level. If you are a beginner and you listen to a nuclear physics lecture in English, you aren't learning English. You're just hearing noise.
That makes total sense. It's like trying to lift 200 kilos on your first day at the gym. You'll just get hurt. So, Sarah, for our listeners who are at home right now, what kind of input should they be looking for to build this reflex?
They should look for natural dialogue, real people talking about real things, like what we are doing right now. They need to hear the fillers, the ahas, the rights, the you-knows. These are the glue of the language.
Let's talk about that glue. I've noticed that when people learn from textbooks, they sound like robots. They say, I am going to the supermarket to purchase some milk. No one talks like that in real life.
You're right. We say, I'm going to grab some milk. The word grab is so much more natural than purchase in a daily context. This is what we call colloquial flow. In this part 1, I want to challenge our listeners to replace one heavy word with a light word today.
Give us some examples of heavy versus light.
Heavy, I shall commence my work. Light is, I'm going to start. Heavy, I require assistance. Light is, I need help. Heavy, it is satisfactory. Light is, it's good.
It's almost like the light words are more powerful because they're faster. Now, Sarah, let's move into the connectors. Even if I have the 50 words we discussed, how do I link them so I don't sound like a telegram?
Connectors are the secret sauce. The most important ones for part 1 are and, but, because, so, then.
Just those 5?
To start, yes. Watch this. If I say, I like coffee, I like tea, it's choppy. But if I say, I like coffee and tea, it's a sentence. If I say, I like coffee but I don't like tea, it's a complex thought. If I say, I like coffee because it gives me energy, I'm now explaining my feelings.
And if you add so, you're explaining a result. I was tired, so I drink coffee.
Exactly. You can build a 10-minute story using only those 5 connectors. Mark, let's try it. Give me a random situation and I'll build a story using only basic words and those 5 connectors.
Okay, let's say you lost your keys.
Okay, here goes. I came home and I looked in my bag. I wanted my keys, but they were not there. I was worried because I could not open the door, so I called my brother. Then he came with his keys and I went inside.
Wow, that was a complete story. It had a beginning, a middle, and a happy ending. And you didn't use a single word that a 10-year-old wouldn't know.
That's the fluency illusion, Mark. People think fluency means using big words. Fluency actually means the ability to connect small words smoothly.
This is such a relief for people to hear. I can almost hear a sigh of relief from our listeners. But Sarah, what about the fear? The fear of making a mistake. That's the biggest wall.
The fear is real, but let me tell you a secret. Native speakers make mistakes all the time. We use the wrong tense, we forget words, we say and If you make a mistake, don't stop. Just keep going. The goal is communication, not perfection.
I love that. Communication, not perfection. Let's dive deeper into the next set of words. We've covered action verbs and connectors. What about time? Time is so important in storytelling.
Yes, in part 1, you only need 3 time zones: now, before, and after.
Not past participle or future continuous?
No, save that for part 10. For now, use now for today, before for everything in the past, and after or later for the future. If you can use yesterday, today, and tomorrow, you have mastered time.
So if I can't remember the past tense of buy is bought, can I just say, yesterday I buy?
Honestly, Mark, if you say yesterday I buy, everyone will understand you. Is it 100% grammatically correct? No. But did you communicate? Yes. Over time, your brain will naturally pick up bought because you'll hear it enough. But don't let the bought buy struggle stop you from telling your story.
That's a very lingo pulse way of thinking. It's about the pulse of the conversation. Now, Sarah, before we wrap up this segment of part 1, I want to talk about listening skills. How does someone practice listening when everyone talks so fast?
That's the biggest complaint. They talk like a machine gun. My advice, don't try to catch every word. Listen for the content words.
What are content words?
Those are the words that carry the meaning, usually the nouns and the verbs. If someone says, I was walking down the street and I saw a big blue dog, you don't need to hear I was, the, and, I, or a. If you hear walking, street, big, blue, dog, your brain fills in the rest.
So it's like a puzzle. You get the main pieces and your brain paints the picture.
Exactly. Don't panic if you miss a the or an is. Focus on the actions and the objects.
This is incredible stuff, Sarah. We're just scratching the surface. Listeners, we are going to keep this going. We have so much more to cover about building your word bank and finding your English voice.
And in the next segment, I want to talk about shadowing, the single most effective exercise for sounding like a native speaker without spending a dime on a tutor.
I can't wait for that. Stay tuned because we are just getting started. Welcome back. We were just talking about shadowing, Sarah. This is a term I hear a lot in the language learning community, but I think many people get it wrong. They think it's just repeating words. Can you explain the real way to do it?
You're right, Mark. Most people just parrot the words. True shadowing is about mimicry of emotion and rhythm. When you shadow a native speaker, you aren't just saying the words, I am going to the store. You're copying the way their voice rises and falls. You're copying the stress.
Stress? You mean like being stressed out?
Not exactly. I mean word stress. In English, we don't say every syllable with the same energy. We say photographer, but photography. The stress changes. If you don't get the rhythm right, people might not understand you, even if your grammar is perfect.
That is such a vital point. It's like music. If you play the right notes but the wrong rhythm, the song sounds terrible. So how can our listeners practice this at home today?
Here is my 5-minute secret. Take a short clip of a podcast, like this one. Listen to one sentence. Stop. Try to say it exactly like I said it. Not just the words, but the feeling. If I sound excited, you sound excited. If I sound tired, you sound tired.
That's brilliant. It turns language learning into a game of acting.
Exactly. And acting takes the pressure off you. You aren't a student trying to pass a test. You're an actor playing a character who speaks perfect English. It's a huge psychological shift.
Let's try it right now for the listeners. I'll say a sentence with a specific emotion, and you shadow it, but explain what you're doing. Wait, you actually found the keys in the fridge?
Okay, so I hear Mark's voice go high on wait and fridge. I'm going to copy that. Wait, you actually found the keys in the fridge? See, I didn't focus on the word actually. I focused on the wait and the fridge because those carry the shock.
Wow, that was spot on. Now, Sarah, let's move back to our vocabulary building. We talked about the 50 core words, but let's talk about clusters.
Clusters are lifesavers. Instead of learning one word, you learn a packet of words that always stay together. Think of it like a Lego set.
Like, how are you? Instead of just learning how, are, and you.
Exactly. In English, we have these fixed expressions. Things like, by the way, to be honest, at the end of the day, in my opinion. If you memorize these as a single unit, your brain doesn't have to work as hard. You just throw the block into the conversation.
It's like having pre-built walls for a house instead of laying every single brick. It's much faster.
Yes, and it makes you sound incredibly natural. If you start a sentence with, to be honest, people immediately think you have a high level of English because that's how we naturally pivot in a conversation.
Let's give them a list of the big 5 clusters for part 1. These are the ones they should use every day.
Okay, here they are. I'm looking for. Use this in shops, in life, everywhere. Do you know if? The most polite way to ask for information. I was wondering. Great for making requests. It depends on. The perfect answer when you're not sure. Actually, I think, a soft way to disagree or give your view.
I use it depends on at least 20 times a day.
Everyone does. Are you coming to the party? It depends on the weather. Do you like this food? It depends on the spices. It's a universal shield for your brain when you need a second to think.
That's a great delay tactic. Let's talk about delay tactics. When I'm speaking a second language, sometimes my brain just stops. It goes blank. What do I do in that silence?
Whatever you do, don't stay silent. Silence creates tension. Use fillers.
You mean like, and
Yes, but better ones. Use things like, well, let me see. That's a good question. You know.
My favorite is, that's a good question. It gives me 5 seconds to think of an answer while making the other person feel smart for asking.
It's a classic trick, Mark. Let's practice a brain blank scenario. Mark, ask me a really hard question in English.
Okay. Sarah, what is your detailed opinion on the socioeconomic impact of digital currency in suburban areas?
Instantly. Well, that's a really good question, Mark. Let me see. I think it's a bit complicated, you know? Actually, I think it depends on the specific area you're talking about.
Stop right there. You just spoke for 15 seconds and you didn't actually answer the question yet, but it sounded like a perfect conversation.
Exactly. I used 3 fillers and a connector. By the time I finished saying it depends on, my brain finally caught up and I could actually think of a real answer.
This is the secret language of fluency. It's not about knowing every word in the dictionary. It's about managing the flow of the words you do know.
That is the perfect way to put it.
We are going to keep this deep dive going. Coming up, we're going to talk about the environment, how to turn your house, your phone, and your daily life into an English-only zone without leaving your home country.
And I'll be sharing a story of a student of mine who learned English in a tiny village without the internet, just by using the labels on food cans.
I can't wait to hear that. Stick around. We've got a lot more ground to cover in part 1. Welcome back. Sarah, right before the break, you mentioned a student who learned English in a tiny village using food cans. That sounds impossible. How is that even possible?
It sounds like a legend, doesn't it? But it's a true story. This student, let's call him Elias, lived in a place where English books were rare, but he realized that the world is covered in English if you just look closely. He started reading the ingredients on cans of soup, the instructions on medicine bottles, and even the made-in labels on his clothes.
So he was learning functional English, not poetic English, but the English of survival.
Exactly. He learned words like sodium, expiration, ingredients, cotton, washable. These are words we use every single day. He realized that if he could describe everything in his kitchen, he could describe half the world.
That leads us perfectly into our next topic, the circle of influence. Most learners try to learn everything at once. They try to learn the names of 100 animals, but they don't know the English word for faucet or remote control in their own living room.
That's a huge mistake, Mark. I call it far-sighted learning. You're looking at the horizon, but you're tripping over the rug in front of you. My rule for part 1 is if you can touch it, you must be able to name it.
I love that rule. If you can touch it, you must be able to name it. So if I'm sitting on my sofa, I should know sofa, cushion, floor, lamp.
Yes, and don't just learn the noun, learn the action that goes with it. You don't just have a lamp, you turn on the lamp. You don't just have a sofa, you sit on the sofa.
This is what we call contextual pairing. Let's give the listeners a home vocabulary blitz. I'll name a room and you give us 3 noun-verb pairs that are essential.
Challenge accepted. Let's do it.
The kitchen.
The fridge. Open the fridge to get food. The stove. Cook dinner on the stove. The sink. Wash the dishes in the sink.
The bedroom.
The bed. Make the bed in the morning. The closet. Hang up your clothes in the closet. The alarm. Set the alarm for 7 a.m.
The office.
The laptop. Type an email on the laptop. The chair. Adjust the height of the chair. The notebook. Write down notes in the notebook.
Do you see how natural that feels? You aren't just memorizing a list of words, you are memorizing scenarios. Mark, I want to pivot a little here. We've been talking about words, but we haven't talked about the sound of confidence.
Oh, this is a big one. You can have a vocabulary of 5,000 words, but if you speak with a questioning tone, nobody will believe you know English.
What do you mean by a questioning tone?
It's when your voice goes up at the end of a regular sentence, like this. My name is Sarah. I live in London. It makes it sound like you are asking for permission to exist.
I see that all the time with nervous speakers. It's like they're saying, is this right? Did I say it right?
Exactly. In part 1, we need to practice the downward inflection. When you make a statement, your voice should end lower than it started. My name is Sarah. Voice goes down. It sounds authoritative. It sounds like you own the language.
Let's practice that. I'll say a sentence the weak way, and you say it the confident way. I think the weather is nice today.
The weather is nice today.
Wow, the difference is night and day. You sounded like a weather reporter, and I sounded like I was guessing.
And here's the secret, Mark. Even if you use the wrong word, if you say it with a downward inflection, people are less likely to notice the mistake. Confidence masks errors.
That is a pro tip right there. Confidence masks errors. Now, Sarah, we promised to talk about turning your environment into an English zone. We live in a digital age. Our phones are basically an extension of our brains.
This is the easiest hack in the world. Change your phone's language setting to English. Right now, stop the podcast, go to settings, and do it.
That sounds terrifying for a beginner. What if they get lost in their own phone?
That's the beauty of it. You already know where the buttons are by muscle memory. You know the top right button is save. Now you'll see the word save. You know the red button is cancel. Now you see cancel. You're learning English through association, not translation.
And think about how many times a day we look at our phones. 100 times? 200 times? That's 200 mini English lessons every single day for free.
Exactly. And then do the same with your social media. Follow one English-speaking creator who talks about something you already love. If you love cooking, follow a British chef. If you love tech, follow an American reviewer.
Why is it important to follow someone you already love?
Because then the subject is familiar. If you understand cooking, you can guess what the chef is saying when they hold up an onion and a knife. You aren't learning cooking, you're just learning the English labels for the cooking you already understand.
It's all about reducing the cognitive load. Your brain doesn't have to learn a new concept and a new language at the same time.
Precisely. Now we have a few minutes left in this segment. I want to touch on the 1-minute monologue. This is a homework assignment I give to all my students.
Only 1 minute?
Just 1 minute. Every night before you go to sleep, record a voice memo on your phone. Talk about your day for exactly 60 seconds. Don't worry about mistakes, just talk. Then, and this is the hard part, listen to yourself.
Nobody likes the sound of their own voice.
I know, but it's the only way to hear your own rhythm and your own questioning tones. When you listen back, you'll think, oh, I said 10 times, or I forgot the S on he walks. The next night, you try to fix just one of those things.
It's like a daily software update for your brain.
I love that analogy. Version 1.1, version 1.2. By the time you get to part 10 of this series, you'll be at version 10.0.
We've covered so much in this block, from Elias and his soup cans to the downward inflection and phone settings. We're building a solid foundation here, Sarah.
We really are, but we haven't even touched on the power of small talk yet, how to handle those awkward 30 seconds in an elevator or at a coffee shop.
That's exactly what we're going to cover in the next block, how to survive and thrive in those quick real-life encounters.
I've got some ready-to-use phrases that will make anyone sound like they've lived in New York for 10 years.
I can't wait. Listeners, keep your notebooks ready. We are moving right along in part 1.
Welcome back to the show. Now, Sarah, we've been talking about the internal work, the thinking, the mindset, the labels, but let's get into the social arena. Let's talk about small talk. For many English learners, this is actually scarier than giving a professional presentation.
You are so right, Mark, because a presentation is prepared. You have slides, you have a script, but small talk? It's unpredictable. It's wild English. You're standing at the bus stop or waiting for your coffee, and suddenly someone says, "Crazy weather today, isn't it?"
And your brain freezes. You know the words for crazy and weather, but you don't know how to keep the ball rolling.
Exactly. My first rule for small talk in part 1 is don't be an answer bot.
An answer bot? Explain that.
An answer bot only gives the information requested. Stranger, how are you? Answer bot, I am fine. Silence. Stranger, do you live around here? Answer bot, yes. Silence. It's like pulling teeth. The conversation dies instantly.
So how do we break out of the bot mode?
Use the answer plus one rule. Give an answer and then add one extra piece of information or a question. Stranger, how are you? You, I'm good, thanks. I'm just a bit tired today because I woke up early. Now you've given the stranger a hook. They can ask why you woke up early or talk about their own morning.
That is such a simple but brilliant shift. You're essentially giving the other person material to work with. Let's role-play a coffee shop scenario. I'll be the stranger, and you use the answer plus one rule. Man, this line is moving so slowly today, right?
I know, it's usually much faster on Tuesdays. I hope I'm not late for my meeting.
Oh, I hope so too. Where's your meeting?
Do you see? Because I added the part about the meeting, the conversation didn't stop. I used very simple words, usually faster, hope, late, meeting, but I kept the pulse alive.
I love that. Now, Sarah, what if someone asks a question and you literally didn't understand what they said? This is a huge fear. People often just nod and say yes, even if they have no idea what was asked.
The nod and smile trap. We've all been there. But the truth is, even native speakers have to ask people to repeat themselves. Maybe it's noisy or the person has a thick accent.
So what's the cool way to ask for clarification without sounding like a confused student?
Avoid saying, "What?" or "I don't understand." Those can sound a bit blunt. Instead, use these three magic phrases. "Sorry, I didn't catch that." Very natural, very common. "Could you say that one more time?" Polite and clear. "What was that last part?" Great if you understood the beginning but missed the end.
I didn't catch that. It makes it sound like the word was a ball that just flew past you, not like you failed a test.
Exactly. It's not about your bad English, it's about the fast delivery. It puts the responsibility on the communication, not on your intelligence.
Let's talk about the topics. In part 1, we should stick to the safe zones. What are the safest topics for an English learner to practice their small talk?
The big three are weather, surroundings, and time. Weather. It's so hot or cold today, isn't it? Surroundings. This place is really crowded, or I love the music in here. Time. Is it already 3 p.m. or I can't believe the day is almost over?
Why are these safe? Because everyone can see them. You don't need to know the person's history or politics. You're just commenting on the world you both share in that moment.
Right, and it builds your confidence muscle. Every time you say, "Nice day, huh?" and a native speaker says, "Yeah, it really is," your brain gets a hit of dopamine. You just won a round of English.
It's like leveling up in a video game. Now, Sarah, let's move to something slightly more advanced, but still part of our foundation, the me narrative.
Yes, eventually someone is going to ask, "So tell me about yourself." This is where learners often struggle because they try to translate their whole life story.
How do we keep it foundation level but still interesting?
Use the 3-point bio. One sentence about what you do, one sentence about where you are from, and one sentence about what you enjoy. I work as a job or role. I am originally from place, and I really like hobby.
Let's try yours.
I work as an English coach. I'm originally from a small town in England, and I really like hiking in the mountains.
Simple, clear, and perfectly grammatical. You aren't using present perfect continuous to describe your childhood. You're just using the simple present.
Exactly. The simple present is the workhorse of the English language. In part 1, you can live your whole life in the simple present. I go, I like, I want, I work.
It's the strongest tense because it's the most direct. Now, Sarah, we are getting close to the end of our word count for this block. I want to leave the listeners with a challenge regarding small talk.
Here's your challenge. The next time you are in a situation where you could speak English, even if it's just to yourself or in a mirror, use the answer plus one rule. If you ask yourself, "How was my day?" don't just say, "Good." Say, "Good, and I finished my project."
I love that. Start training your brain to give that extra hook.
In the next block, we're going to talk about the vocabulary of emotion, how to say more than just happy or sad, how to describe your actual feelings so you can make real friends in English.
That's where the pulse really starts to beat. Don't go anywhere, guys. We're just warming up.